Hello, welcome back to another episode of When We Cry Smoking Room. This is
Yay!
I'm so excited. This is an episode that we literally willed out of existence. It came out of nowhere, zero preparation, or very short preparation. This is your friendly neighborhood mushroom. Our other hosts we have on are...
Hi, I'm Des, and the guests we have here today are...
Hi, I'm SK. I'm SK Relatable.
I'm Vivian. I'm Vivian Relatable.
Yay!
Wow!
That's so exciting. We have the relatables. Ooh.
Yes, here I come with my little interview mic. Hello, Relatables. How do you feel about being the first recurring guests in the When We Cry pod?
What?
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
This is unprecedented. We are making history right now.
Oh my stars! I did not realize.
Slow panning.
Oh, I'm getting the vapors.
Yeah. I guess last time we've talked, it was in August, or was it in? I feel like September. It feels like forever
been a
ago,
hot minute.
and also like not at all. Like I felt like I just talked to you like 2 months ago or something.
Right? It's like COVID time. I have no idea how long ago that was.
COVID time zone. It's all the same.
According to the internet, it was October.
Ooh,
Oh, well, that's
October.
when it aired. So we were probably talking in September, like 5 months ago.
Wow. If you did not watch the last episode, well, I encourage you to. It's fun. We discussed a lot of stuff about Umineko. Honestly, for a discussion that only encompasses half the story worth of spoilers, it was a very meaty episode with a lot of great discussion content. So I highly advise you to go watch it, either before or after this one.
Yeah, totally.
And don't forget to smash that like while you're there.
Smash your like button. Yeah, but also this episode will build on upon the knowledge of the last one. So if you we won't probably like retread like a lot of things. So yeah, like if you're confused of like how did we leap logic to here, it's because we have done the previous episode already.
True. But what are we here to do today? Oh my god, I'm repeating myself, Mushroom.
Well, you are just being Liu Kishi. You're having a Liu Kishi moment right now.
No, I need a food metaphor for that.
Yee. Okay, so let's see. Since the last time we have caught up with the relatables, they were on their journey to go reread all of Umineko that they have just done from EP1 to EP4. So, and that seems like an extremely daunting task. When I informed Des was like, well, since we finished doing this episode, when are they gonna come back to play more Umineko? And I was like, I think they're coming back to play more Umineko like next year, January or February. And then that just looks like the angry penguin face, and Des was like, well, that's a lot of time. Like that's a lot of time. Like, and I was just like, well, you know, maybe they're gonna take a break or read more. And it's like, and Des is like, what if they're gonna forget about everything? And I was like, I hope not. Like, I hope they would like keep.
Oh no, what that we could forget.
Terminal
Exactly.
Umineko brain over here.
So yeah, tell us about how's your just try to describe to us what have you been doing since the last 5 months of catching up.
Right. So we finished our playthrough of Question Arcs like late last year, right? September-ish, I think. And at that time, I just personally really needed a break because it's a huge and daunting game.
Yeah.
And
I totally understand that you ended up being burnt out by it.
yeah, it's like not because I wasn't enjoying it, just because it's just like it's a lot.
Mhm.
We were planning on taking a break from the game anyway, just to take some time to recharge our batteries. But we also wanted to take the opportunity to go back and rewatch our playthrough of chapters 1 through 4. With all the knowledge of the question arcs, because the idea is that at the end of the question arcs, it was described to us that like this is enough information where you can figure out the broad strokes of what's going on, and we're like, okay, this is what like clearly what the game wants us to do is sit down and go through it like this. So we're like, okay, yeah, sure, let's take a look and see what we can do.
Yeah, okay, wait, I have a question. What in the game brought you to the conclusion that yes, rereading 200 hours worth of content will surely pay off?
Was gonna be totally worth it.
Like, what made you trust the story so much that you would invest so much time into rereading the first half?
It was when we started noticing small things that were in front of us that were like, oh, we haven't been paying attention to this at all. And to be completely, perfectly honest, when we started reading Umineko, I for the longest time I hadn't been treating it the way the game wants you to treat it. Like I hadn't been listening to what the witch was saying, you know.
Well, that's usually the way to go in most things. Don't listen to what the witch says.
Right, and it's like so. It took until like chapter 3 or so before we're like, wait, hold on. There is so much more here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been here this entire time.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the motivation behind us deciding that it would be worth doing.
Wow.
And it has paid dividends.
Absolutely.
So I feel like it's...
I am excited to talk about how Umineko is the gift that keeps on giving. I am surprised because I was going to say, I think... for any media to read basically something longer than War and Peace itself, it's kind of scary to be like, hey, would you like to read everything you just read? But again, like, you know, like that's a lot. Like who would do that in the right sane mind? But Umineko really just tells you like, well, you know, you could read this book regularly or you could read it the fun way where you just read it over and over again. I think people have seen that tweet before, but it's one of my favorite tweets that explains about Umineko, and it just says, after you finish Umineko, you unlock this thing called Umineko 2, time to read the whole thing all over again, but it's now simultaneously sadder and funnier at the same time.
New Game Plus unlocked.
Exactly.
But honestly, that's a really interesting route you took, because some people finish Umineko and they don't even end up rereading yet. Yet you did it halfway through it. That's an interesting route. I don't know where I was going with this. That's the end of my point.
I think it's because like it had been described on multiple occasions that the end of the question arcs is about where you have all of that information, and also some of it was the fact that we wanted to make sure that, at least in my case, I wanted to make sure that I had a good enough handle on this because we're also putting ourselves out there in front of people.
That's a very good way to say it. I totally understand what you mean by putting yourself out there. I think like what I do a lot on the and the Discord channel, the ADPR Discord channel, I talk a lot with Reina. Is that how?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I talk to Reina a lot about basically watching other Let's Players of Umineko, and of course, like you could, if we were truly cruel. And live in a society, you could rank them or like basically talk about who you like more and why did you like other people who experience more. So like there's people who were able to like get a lot out of reading Umineko like throughout the whole time, and some people just passively read it. Some people who didn't really try to solve anything until the very, very end of Umineko. And you know, everybody is all valid and all their special little snowflake of reading, but like it's also extremely vastly different. Like, you know, it makes for very like fascinating differences. So like I think I am impressed by the integrity and like basically the length that you went through to basically like diligently reread it. You know, like you could have simply just like not think and then read Umineko and had a good time, but you chose to like do what Ryukishi hammered into you to do, which is think. All the time. Never stop thinking.
Yeah, pretty much like whatever you give Umineko, you receive in double, pretty much.
True.
Yeah, it's wild that how on the myriad different levels you can interact with this work on. It's not something I'm used to.
Yeah, who says a story without a VN without choices isn't interactable?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So yeah, I want to talk about some of your old theories. This will also lead into the part 3 section, which is about your new theories. But so a few old theories I want to bring up. I was re-listening to the episodes that we did around like 4 months ago, and there's a few things, and I want to ask you if you still believe them. So one of the things that you use is the canon Shannon thing. Have you? What's your thoughts on it? Let's talk about it. Well, I would like to say I did listen to your 4-hour episode of your EP1 thoughts about theories. I was there on the day when it came out and live tweeted my whole thought process. But since you are on our podcast, and I'm not sure if our listeners have listened to your 4-hour video. While it is extremely entertaining, tell us, what's your thoughts? Shannon Cannon, lay it on me, man.
Well, I think we kind of have to abandon my bold theory from last time that they are the same person. I think we have pretty definitely seen them in the same room over the course of our 2 episodes of rewatches a couple of times, but I think we were at least picking out something good. There's definitely some weird stuff about Canon in particular and about Shannon and Cannon's interactions. Like there's sometimes where it seems almost as though Shannon was summoning Cannon or something, where she's conversing with Cannon and then all of a sudden somebody else shows up and it's as though Cannon was never there, things like that. There's also weird things with Cannon never leaving a body and the red truths about Cannon's name, where it's just like, we were picking out something weird going on, but I'm no longer sure quite what that weird thing is.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like there's clearly we have some idea what might be going on with Shannon and Cannon. And it ties into some of our one of our grand theories for episode 1, but I don't think we're going to commit to. I don't think we were going to commit to Shannon Cannon being the same person. Although I think Vivian, there still was something to, like you said, there was something to the fact that they do seem to be tied up in each other in a way that is hard to explain just by taking stuff at face value.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's it's like you, even on the 4-hour thing, you had so many thoughts on Shannon and Canon. Like the and the baby thing. Like that's one of your ideas that stuck with me. It's like the baby factory Ginzo allegedly would have.
Just gonna drop that
we're
without
gonna
context.
get to
All right.
we're gonna get to Baby Factory Des. The Baby Factory is a bit topic.
Okay,
okay. we can't just spring the words Baby Factory onto unassuming readers. Des, if I came to you and be like, Des, have you heard about our all inglorious Ushiromiya Kingso Baby Factory? Wouldn't you be a little bit intimidated?
Yes, indeed. I would be like.
So yes.
Wow. So yes.
So yeah.
What else?
Sorry.
No.
What else did I think in your old thought, I think the Canon and Shannon thing is there's another part of your old thought in your previous episode that we did with you is your systematic idea of like magic. Like you think your magic ideas has been greatly improved? Do you think you learned more about like what you like while doing your reread?
I don't know if it's just that it's I still think that's the right way to think about it. It just doesn't pay off nearly as much in chapters 1 and 2.
Interesting.
Like we're making meticulous notes about like what people say about magic and how it works and what they use, and it does give us some insight into what they're doing and what they're thinking, but it's not paying off quite. It's not the kind of thing that's leading to like a big revelation.
Interesting.
At least at the moment.
So, basically, you feel like magic is more easily to solve in EP4 and EP3, and it's harder in 1 and 2. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I just feel like there's not a lot that we had to, because our the way we feel about, or at least the way I feel about magic, I don't want to speak for Vivian on that, is that despite the fact that magic doesn't exist, for the people who practice it, magic is definitely internally consistent. So we can still learn a lot about their actions and motivations by what magic they use and why. And
But you're not sure how to apply that in EP 1 and 2. Is that what you're trying to say?
Right, because there's a lot less very overt magical shenanigans going on in episodes 1 and 2.
I mean,
episode 1 is pretty much...
I mean, I say that.
Episode 1 is pretty much deprived of fantastical scenes.
yes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, episode 2, there are lots of magic scenes, but you don't really know what the equivalent of scenes, like, what do they mostly mean?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. In fact, one of the things that we struggled with in episode 2 in particular was what to make of all these grandiose magical scenes.
Oh, like the Halloween party.
Yeah.
Or do you have anything else
exactly.
in mind?
Halloween party and like the scene where Cannon is in Jessica's bedroom trying to save her from the golden blizzard of butterflies. And we have very different interpretations of what to make of those.
Okay,
but,
we'll get there. That's very exciting. Yeah,
But what about episode 1? What in episode 1 is it hard for you to decipher?
The thing is, a lot of episode 1 is just right there in the open.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean?
There's like only one scene in episode 1 where we're both like, okay, hold on, we need to think about like
Really?
Just
one?
the game can't be happening what it's showing us.
Just one.
Okay. Where is that?
I'm surprised by this.
Oh, am I forget? I'm thinking specifically of the scene where Natsuhi goes to speak with Kinzo.
Okay, that definitely is one. I feel like there were others
Well,
that I couldn't easily
In episode
explain.
1? Oh, maybe at like the very, very end when it.
Well, Vivian, what were you thinking about when you were trying to describe it? Could you think of any more scenes on top of your head?
I feel like there were other ones where Kinzo showed up and I didn't have a good explanation for what that meant. Basically, any time that Kinzo showed up. We had speculated that there were some at the beginning, which could have been set previously in the past when he was still alive and not in chronological order, but I don't think that works for all of them, and I don't have a great explanation for any of them.
I see Kinzo is your mystery man, then you don't know what to make of him.
Yeah.
At this point, it's hard to know what to make of
Yeah.
Kinzo. We have some ideas, but it's that's another point on which we diverge pretty heavily.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I love when it's fun when you basically agree about theories, but it's even more spicier when you disagree on theories in general. Just I think like it makes for it's just makes for bigger head scratchers.
Oh yeah, Vivian actually pointed this out. That throughout episode 1, we were generally very close to one another in how we felt about things. But come episode 2, the two of us are wildly differing.
Okay.
Well, that's
so
good.
then that's what you want to say?
I just say that's good.
Yeah, it is good. Okay. So, I want to like those are like the top like 2 very specific things I wanted to ask from our original video, but let's talk about the things that you guys mentioned in the 4-hour extravaganza, which is
The legendary video.
the legendary video that only was supposed to encompass EP1, while you also just talked a lot about general thoughts about Umineko.
I think some of that was because we just came off the end of the question arc, so we had a lot of like general world building theories that kind of bloated the length a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so I wanted to ask. So one of the first things let's talk about is the Kinzo's baby mill. Like, what is it? Like, sell us about the Kinzo baby mill. I want to know all about it. Give me a tour.
That's we prefer the term the Beato Ushiromiya Raising Club.
Yeah.
Wait, is that a reference to that one Evangelion game?
It is. It is.
Oh my god.
Oh man. So it's been a little while since we laid all of it out. But it was essentially our theory for what exactly to make of stuff like of facilities like Kuwadorian, the fact that there was indeed Beatrice living on this island in the 60s, how to tie that into the servants of the Golden Wing who seem to have privileged access to these areas, the fact that we see like the fact that we're shown like we know that there are like tunnels underneath the island, and there seems to be places Nanjo is familiar with.
Yeah,
I'm not.
It was a way of trying to wrap all of that up and try to get a broad stroke idea of what horrors might Kinzo have been bringing about on this island.
that's true. Like, the more you read, the more this island opens up to you. Because at the start, it's just an island with a mansion. Then you start realizing, maybe there's another mansion somewhere in the woods. And now maybe there's a tunnel and a whole fucking baby raising project going on. Like, I thought this was just an
Exactly.
island where
It's-
people lived.
And it gets weirder when you realize that no one talks about it, despite the fact that at least some of these people should know about these things.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. How did you even like? Okay? Like, give me a scene. Like, how did you, SK Vivian, sit there and was like, this is the theory we're gonna latch onto now? Like, how did it come up to you? Like, what scene made you, like, tip you off, or like, what even injected the idea of, I don't know, a Beato raising project? I feel like, well, it seems like it would fit all the story very neatly. It doesn't seem like a very easy leap to make.
I think what kind of started cueing us in on it was the whole thing in episode 3 where we see Virgilia raising a young Beatrice, and then we hear about Virgilia being the previous Beatrice, and then we had these theories that, well, it seems most likely that if anyone might be taking on the role of Beatrice now, it could be Shannon or Canon. And then we kind of started to put things together, and we're like, oh, does this mean that Kinzo was trying to have vessels to summon Beatrice into? Did Kinzo need a correct looking or correct descended type of person to do that to? And did he decide to have descendants with Beatrice and
Okay, so
make that happen?
The scene that put the idea into your heads was the fact that Virgilia used to be a Beato. Like, she used to have the name Beato. So then how do you explain characters like Angie at a point, like, she's called Angie Beato, and Eva is also at a point called Eva Beato. How does that fit into your theory?
Yeah. I think it's because the name Beatrice gets used to describe a lot of related but very different characters.
So you say the
There-
name Beato is mostly just like a term to describe a vague concept instead of a character?
Yeah, there is no one, and the fact that like in the game clues you into that. The fact that there is a previous Beatrice in Virgilia would seem to clue you in that Beatrice is not a name given to someone exclusively. There is no one character you can point to be like Beatrice. Beatrice gets used. I think we've identified at least 3 people we suspect that could take on the name Beatrice at various points during episodes 1 and 2.
3?
And obviously Ava does during chapter 3.
Yeah, who are the 3 people?
They are Shannon, Canon, and Kumasawa.
Really? Kumasawa.
Well, I should not in the present day, but at one point. In terms of the present day, we think that there are maybe 2 characters, like Shannon and Canon, both have the capacity to play Beatrice as she is portrayed in the portrait.
Okay.
Part of the reason that we like, why would that be? Canon's sprite looks nothing like Beatrice. Also, Canon's a dude. Why would that work? Part of the reason we believe that comes from the nature of how Kinzo would be selecting for vessels. Because if Kinzo's trying to raise kids to be potential vessels for Beatrice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's using the Fuku in-house as kind of a front for those children, then he's not letting them live unless they look sufficiently like Beatrice. He's not letting, like, he doesn't have any use, he wouldn't have any use for children that aren't sufficiently Beatrice-like to act as a vessel.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what led to the idea that, probably the sprites are lying to us about what the characters are looking like.
Okay.
And probably Shannon and Canon look very similar to
That's
each other.
a very interesting way of thinking about it. Well, of course, like, Ryukishi has mentioned this before, and he says all the characters are supposed to be Japanese looking, which means they have normal hair colors like normal people, So in that way, like, in any scenario when we're reading like a visual novel that way, like, we could try to imagine them basically with natural hair color. They are Japanese, and this is a very grounded, well, I was gonna say this is a very grounded story without any supernatural elements, but then I realized, JK, what am I saying? That's all supernatural elements.
Yes, I totally hang out with Jack the fuck out buttwords with goat heads every day, Mushroom.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're imagining, I guess, Battler in real life, you should be like imagining him having spiky black hair like Phoenix, right? And I guess they probably didn't want to go with black hair because then he would just really look like Phoenix. But
Right. And the funny thing is we didn't know about that particular
connection.
No, I had heard about it after we had started going through that and being like, oh, so this is probably the case. And then one of our friends just casually mentions that, like, oh yeah, like Ryukishi tends to make like very stylized versions of this character. That's not necessarily how they would look IRL. And I'm like, oh, well,
Yeah.
great. So glad we figured that out the hard way.
Well, yeah, it's pretty fascinating. There are very specific canonical hair colors. They're very fair and far between. I'm pretty sure Beatrice looks exactly what Beatrice looks like, but I think like
Yeah, Beatrice is like the one character that we'd have no reason to question her appearance because she doesn't exist. And the way people envision her is the most
realistic. Yeah, that's a very
realistic
fun
version
way
of her.
to think
Mario
about
would
it.
like to disagree with the statement that she doesn't exist.
Oh, sorry. Beatrice, air quotes, exists.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah. So, I think like in the previous episode, I talked about trigger words, but quotation exists is a word that like would trigger my friend to no end. Every time he sees it, he starts screaming. He's like, I don't understand what that means yet. Like, what is this? I hate. But yeah. So I want to come back to this question since we were mentioning it earlier. So it says that, well, you mentioned that like you like Vivian SK, you have different interpretations of what's happening with Kingzo. What is the similarities of how your theories are, and what are the differences?
Yeah. Vivian, you want to talk about what we think the KDA looks like right now?
KDA.
Because I think that's
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
A good lead up to, that's a good lead up to how we differ on Kinzo.
Okay. So we suppose, now that we know that Kinzo is already dead, that there must be at least some certain subset of people that have absolutely got to be in on it, that must know that and be preserving the illusion for whatever reason. And from what we have seen so far, it really appears that the Servants of the Golden Wing, that is Shannon, Canon, and Genji, at least those three have got to be in on it. We also suspect that given that in Chapter 4 that Angie and a number of the other surviving relatives of some of the folks who died on Rokenjima received what appears to be some cash from Kinzo's fortune, that would likely have had to be sent by whoever this group is, since it would have been sent before the time of the island and the killings, and they would have had to have access to Kinzo's fortune. So
Okay.
we figured this group, probably at least those three, have control of Kinzo's assets and are...
Should there be one more on that list?
What?
Nanjo?
Yes, and Nanjo. Nanjo, who we've repeatedly seen up there and who's talking about Kinzo as though he's there and, oh, well, he's not doing too well, but he's still alive and kicking up there when he's not. So Nanjo as well. And then the one we've been having a bit of trouble with who else might be in the group or not. We've had some reasons to suspect that any of Goda or Kumasawa or Kyrie might be involved in it, but nothing is conclusive for any of them.
Why
Nothing's
Kyrie?
conclusive.
I have a question though. in your theory video, when you were discussing Kinzo already being dead, you brought up the time that Natsuhi is in the study speaking with Kinzo, and your explanation was that there would be some communication device there, and someone would be replying to Natsuhi. But
I take the blame for
really,
that one.
so you don't believe that anymore? Because I was just gonna bring up another scenario, and I wanted you to explain it.
Bring it up.
Go.
Okay, so this is just one I remember. Maybe there's more, but in EP3 or 4, I actually don't remember. There's a scene where Kraus is in the study and Kinzo fingers him in the air and then just fucking throws him against the wall. How'd you explain that?
I don't. It probably didn't happen.
Wait, so then is Kraus also a part of the Alliance? Was he drugged the fuck out into believing this happened?
Thing is, I don't know. Right now we have a very conservative list of people that are involved in the KDA. We don't want, like, we're trying not to add anyone to that unless we know they must be involved.
Yeah, I do appreciate your use of Occam's razor.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not something I always. It's just like at least as far as in the rewatches we've gotten in chapter 2, there hasn't been anything yet that insists that anyone else must have been in on it before the events of the game board. We think during the course of the game board that some people might be brought into it depending on the state of the game. And in fact, that's kind of what I think actually happened with Natsuhi now.
And with Rosa.
And with Rosa. And it was specifically the scene with Rosa that kind of tipped us off to, like, okay, this is just something that seems to be happening.
What scene with Rosa?
Because when Rosa goes up to meet Kinzo in chapter 2, we don't see what happens. She just comes back down saying, yeah, don't worry, grandfather's fine, gonna stay up there. And it seems like maybe the broad strokes of what happened with Natsuhi are there, but she definitely wasn't speaking with Kinzo, right?
Yeah, so our better explanation is that something magical is going on, right? So something has happened to Natsuhi in that room, and it's not as it seems, but it appears that it has, from what we know from later in chapter 2 and what happens with Rosa, and from what happens afterwards in chapter 1, it seems as though she is brought around on something gives her a change of heart, likely some interaction that would make her say she has the golden wing on her heart and so on, but likely not exactly what was shown to us at all. And it's hopefully in a closed room, so magic can flourish in there.
The very elaborate theory with the communication device that I had, that was born out of a desire that, like, that when I was created that, the idea that I was operating on was that every scene we watch has some very real explanation hiding just right beneath the surface.
Yes.
And that it has and Vivian was the one that brought me around to this, that at a certain point there are just scenes we are shown that we cannot trust happening.
Interesting. Well, that's fine. Dessa and I basically argue about that every single day anyway. You will one day when you finish all of Umineko, you'll realize that the same argument you will be having now will probably be similar arguments you will be having.
Oh, good.
Yeah, wouldn't you agree, Des?
Yeah, I'd say Umineko is a story that you argue about until your deathbed.
Yeah, basically.
You'll be like 8 years old and being like, no, grandson, you're wrong. This is actually... You stupid child! You did not read the chapter right.
What worries me more is that from the way everyone talks about it, it doesn't seem like there is a generally agreed upon version of events for every single chapter.
You'll get there.
And that worries me.
It will make sense when the more you get through. Umineko is about the discussion. I mean, there are answers. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to go too much into it. You know, you're just gonna find out.
Yeah. We'll get there when we get there.
I think we mentioned KDA stands for Kinzo's Dead Alliance, and so I mean,
it's a great name.
It is a great name. I keep
just
thinking
wanna
about
say that real
Popstar.
quick.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like it. I think someone afterwards said it reminded them of a
Yeah,
pop
it's the
group.
it's the Korean pop group, like for like the League of Legends song, the pop star, like it's called KDA.
Oh, yeah, it is apparently. Thank you, Google.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, so
Whoops.
what makes you not want to basically put everybody in the KDA group? Like, because not to harp on your basically magical device that could speak Kingzo and then makes people confused. But like, okay, so wouldn't the easier way out is just saying, oh, they're lying, these people are lying, they're all in on it, and they're just telling a story. Like, why wouldn't that be the easier answer that you went for?
It's because up until midway through our chapter 2 of our rewatch, I was still trying to make Umineko play by the rules of other literature.
Interesting.
And it doesn't. And trying to make and like and in other literature, like when you have a scene like that, you're always supposed to have like the literal reading of the text that's hiding just underneath the surface, and when you scrape away the assumptions, you're like, oh, this is what was actually going on, and that's supposed to be the end of it. And Umineko does not work like
Or
that.
at least it's not like a
And-
very clear one-to-one basically representation.
Right. If there is a version of that you can do, it is not one that we are currently equipped to
Interesting.
do.
Okay.
That's really interesting that
Yeah.
your current outlook on the story is that he can just pull you a fast one just like that and say like, oh yeah, this whole scene you read, it's just the truth behind this isn't just a simple change in perspectives. There may be a whole different scene actually going on. That's the way you're currently looking at the story, and yet you trust it enough to deliver a good enough answer.
Yeah, it's bizarre because I think in literally other piece of literature I might get frustrated with that. Because it's like, okay, so then because the natural question is like, then what was the point? What was the point of showing me this scene if I'm not able to trust anything going on with it?
So what is the
And-
point in Umineko?
Part of it is learning like, okay, maybe this version of events is what someone wants us to believe. This is learning that just not that it is without purpose or point, but the point of it is different than what I and my naivete would expect, right? It's not it has value, but that value is rooted in a different set of rules than anything else I've read, and getting the head to get to that point and finding what that understanding is.
Sounds quite difficult.
I'm not sure where I'm going with the sentence. I'm gonna
It's
just trail
okay.
off.
No, but
Jumping
well, sorry. Continue.
jumping back slightly, Mushroom, you asked why we didn't think everyone was in on it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I have a rather different answer
Okay.
than SK had for that. My thought being that I don't think that we have a motivation that makes sense for that.
Okay.
It seems to me that something really strange and contradictory is going on if we assume that all of the events are one secret conspiracy that's all working together on something, because the sets of people who die differs every time. The actions people take frequently differ quite a bit based on which route they're in. The outcomes differ, and there are a lot of things which we just weren't really easily able to put together if there was just one group of conspirators working together and then the innocent folks.
Interesting.
And we found that a number of things seemed like they might be explained more easily if either somebody went off the rails and was not going by the original plan, or if someone came in with an ulterior motive separate from that conspiracy and what have you. So
Okay.
that's kind of what's been driving me, thinking that I feel like a lot of things are clearer if we accept that maybe the motivations are more complex and less clear.
Yeah, we've been focusing a lot on specifically the KDA as the main antagonists, but that's definitely not going to be the case, especially in the next game, in game board number 3, where all the servants just die right at the
Yeah.
front.
What's
And
that
pretty
about?
much everyone on our short list is dead at the first twilight. So it can't be the case that it's only that the KDA is the only faction here.
Actually, this leads into basically what I want to ask you next is how do you plan to solve all of the EPs? And if we want to break it down a little bit, let's talk about like, you know, we talked a lot about like conspirators, like people who are actually like people who you thought were alive actually dead, people doing shady business behind everybody else. And you know, even
no pressure. How are you going to solve the next episodes?
Yes, no pressure. But how are you going to solve them?
So I do have a delightfully elegant, perfect solution for all of Umineko, but it's just too small to fit in this margin.
Whoa, what a bold!
Haha.
Wait, did I miss a joke?
Both of you got it. It's
Fermat's last theorem.
Oof, sauce.
But I don't know. I know that on this rewatch we're only going to get through episode 2, unfortunately. At least before we return for the answer arcs.
Though we will be continuing with the others as we go along.
It's just the competing agendas of running a YouTube channel and not wanting to spend too much time away from the series.
Of course, understandable, but
and versus how much so much time that is put into doing these behind the scenes.
Because there's also just so much to take into account when you're theorizing about Umineko that you'll be in a frame of mind after you read the scene, but then if you tackle it again a week later, you've already got your mind somewhere else, and it's hard to get back into that mindset.
And meanwhile, your thoughts are constantly changing.
It really is. It's draining. It takes us so long to watch through and properly discuss because we do usually 90-minute to 2-hour episodes for Umineko, and we have to break them up we have to do them half at a time, because watching just 45 minutes of us do of game time turns into 2-3 hours of us talking with each other and taking notes and going back and forth. It's absurd. It is absurd.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds pretty wild. So
sounds like a monumental task, to be honest. I don't know if I would ever throw myself in such an intimidating thing to do.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why we unfortunately we're only going to finish through part 2 before we do the answer arcs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because in Umineko terminology wise, I think EP2 was seen to be very hard when it first came out. So they were said that EP3 was gonna be easy, or Ryukishi claimed to be. So I was actually really excited that I was like, do you have any idea how would you solve EP3? And it's funny because I was also listening to the previous episode we did, and Des and I were joking about how EP4 is going to take us forever, and we probably wouldn't even be able to finish EP4 before you folks start your EP5 read through. And so far that's actually kind of true, Des. We are still on EP4. And so just to break down it a little bit, so do you have any idea how would they be able to do EP3 murders, EP2 murders, maybe not to solve everything, but do you have any idea of who you think what is happening?
We have some general ideas of what the culprits look like for episodes 1 and 2.
So yeah.
For 3, I think the game makes it pretty clear who we're meant to suspect for most of
course.
it. But
so
but
let's pull up a random murder, I guess. EP.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, all right. Hot seat.
So, I think this one is a pretty, it's more not easier, but more clear. Or for example, EP2 Second Twilight, Eva and Hideyoshi's murder in their room.
No, that's EP1.
Oh, fuck me.
That's EP1.
Oh, EP2 is Jessica and Cannon. We'll get back to that, I guess.
So in episode 1, at that point, our operating theory for episode 1 is that Shannon is going to be the perpetrator for a lot of the murderers there. We suspect that a body double was used to fake her death in the first Twilight, in that Hideyoshi and Ava at least are in on that. We're still a little unclear on the full scope of her motivations. It could be hatred for Ava. It could just be that she has kind of, the abuse has taken its toll and she's fully accepted this role as Beatrice. But we suspect that she's the one that kills Hideyoshi and Ava, and that Kanon and Genji find the crime scene and prepare it for the rest of the folks there.
I see, but how do you get over the chain though?
The chain.
The chain.
Cool thing about the chain. The cool thing about the chain.
Chains are cool.
And we had this thrown right in our face, and I was like,
yes, I feel like that is basically Umineko people brain constantly. Like, you just somehow memorize all the red truth, you memorize all the talking points. Whenever somebody thinks that they're getting closer to the truth, you're like, what about this specific red truth?
The thing is, we don't know when the chain is cut.
Sure. Okay.
We know that when I think it's Genji and Kanon find the room originally, it is chained.
No, I think
and
it's
we know
Kumasawa,
that when
Kumasawa and Kano.
Oh, Kumasawa and Genji? Okay. When the two people find the room originally, it is chained. When the rest of the family gets there, it is no longer chained. It has been cut between that point. At any point during that time, like anyone after, like Genji and Kanon could have gone in and prepped the crime scene, planted the stakes or whatever. It made it look more magical than it actually was.
Interesting.
And I think that's broad strokes what we think is going on with that one.
Okay, so they cut the chain, went in and embellished the murder? Is that it?
Yeah, more or less.
So
Vivian, you gotta...
They were already dead when they went in to embellish the murder, is that it? Because then you still have the problem of how were they killed with a chain set?
They weren't. They just the
chain. We didn't get truths that the chain was set at the time of the killing, did we?
No, we didn't get anything. Like the door didn't have to be chained like when they were killed.
Oh, so you're even removing the chain from the equation. Okay.
Yeah, and like I was a stickler about this, and I still will be. It's not trivial, but it's not hard to set a chain from outside. You can do it. There are methods for reaching around, setting a chain from outside the door and closing it. It's not trivial, but you can do it. But also, we don't know that the room was chained when they were killed.
That's an interesting mindset. Oh, we have a problem with the chain being set. It was not even chained in the first place. That's an interesting way to get over the problem.
It's just... the thing
it's out of the box.
Umineko
it's a creative answer.
Umineko loves to trap us into taking all of its premises at face value, right? When that's clearly not the case. So even if that's not the solution to that problem, like a lot of the times the solution is that one of the things the game has led you to assume about the case is not true. Can you find out what it is?
That's, because if you think about it, how do you write the mystery? You have to be constantly thinking about what your reader's gonna be building inside their head and trying to work around it to...
Right.
As a mystery writer, you've always gotta know what your reader is thinking.
And it's kind of unfortunate. I can't speak for Vivian, but like I know I don't have a very big background with mystery novels. But it became clear going through this that Ryukishi very much is playing on specific classic mystery novel tropes.
Yeah.
Oh, like for example, the fact that there are closed rooms.
Yeah, and the fact that like Beatrice keeps relating like, oh, they couldn't do this in a mystery novel, but I can give you like the straight up or down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah. And a lot. Vivian, what was it that you found? Like the 10 rules of classic mystery fiction?
Oh God, I don't even remember. Some authors' rules of classic mystery fiction that was referenced.
And when we looked at those in conjunction with the murders, it's like, oh, this is the same kind of mindset that would lead someone to do stuff like this.
Ronald Knox's 10 Commandments of Detective Fiction. The name Knox was referenced as a mystery author in the text at one point, which led me to look up Ronald Knox's 10 Commandments of Detective Fiction.
So you did a whole fucking investigation work just to understand this author that was referenced a single time in the text.
Yes, absolutely yes.
I gotta applaud you.
That's good Umineko reading there.
Wow.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I mean, did you came from a background of reading mystery novels then?
Not really. Not really.
Matter of fact, most people who read Umineko never read mystery novels, but did want to check out mystery novels after Umineko.
Right?
Because Umineko makes it look so much fun.
I've read like a couple of more thrillery type mystery novels.
I see.
I read Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and the rest of the Millennium trilogy. Those were pretty good. I enjoyed them,
Yeah.
but they're not like classic mystery literature. It's not
Yes.
an Agatha Christie. It's not a Raymond Chandler or something like that.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say
SK.
sorry.
SK, you've since played a number of rather mind-bendingly mysterious VNs, though,
Ooh,
right?
well, what are the mind-bendingly
Wait,
mysterious
what?
fans?
What are
Haven't you?
what are we talking
Haven't you
about?
played some with rather interesting revelations?
Oh.
That
Wait, which one are you referring to specifically here?
it's unclear.
Because I have
Well-
played a lot of mystery VNs, I guess. Are you referring to like Somnium Files?
Yeah, you played Somnium Files. You played the other one.
the other
13
the other
Sentinels?
Somnium-
Yeah, the other one.
Right, other games that are like a perpetual series of revelations that where it's just like
yes, I love the Bible.
the
Thank you, Mushroom.
You're welcome. Somebody has to make the Bible jokes since Sayome is not here.
True. The Sayome input.
I will say though, playing Umineko has got my brain working on a different level on those other games now because I'm sitting there taking a long time being like, I wonder what this means. Can we solve this from right here?
You want to hear the funniest Umineko brain thing that happened to me?
Yes,
I
please.
Okay.
started picking up. I started picking up reading philosophy again, which I hadn't done for a number of years.
Okay.
I did a philosophy degree at university.
Damn.
And I'm picking up this book and I'm reading it. And I'm reading through the philosophical arguments, and it's just coming across as red text. And I'm like, no, you can get around this by doing this and that. This doesn't really mean what it seems like it means. It's all useless.
The thing is, a lot of the red text arguing does feel a lot like philosophical debate.
Yeah, it feels very dialectical. Like I'm like, like when you're reading philosophy books, isn't it just two assholes arguing with each other,
I mean, it's more like Battler reminds me a lot of like the first year or two of taking philosophy in university, because
What?
When you know enough to talk a lot, but not enough to know when to shut the
exactly.
Oh,
Like
my God.
Battler's that kind of person that just knows enough just enough to just talk out of his ass, but can't ever shut up and listen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we made this joke on the server, but like about how Battler is totally a weird debate lord who just cannot fucking stop debating.
Oh, I think Beato's more of the debate me, bro.
Oh,
Not true.
Debate me.
yeah. As you can imagine, there's lots of change my mind Umineko memes out there. They're all
I
very
imagine
funny.
so.
So yeah, I was actually going to say, I, on the other hand, got into Umineko because I was a huge mystery person. Like I was a huge like Agatha Christie fan, and I read a lot of classic Japanese mysteries before I went into read Umineko. So, funny story about that is like I was actually recently just trying to get my friend a present for his mother because his mother really likes mystery, and I was like, oh, your mother should read Walking Under the Midnight Sun, which is a really great book. Like I read that book when I was like around 15ish, as it was like a birthday present, and it was like such a great classic Japanese mystery. And it was just funny because I realized like Keigo's books are not really translated, because the problem about getting into Japanese mysteries is that most of the good books are actually not translated, so you can't read them. So like lots of people want to bring up the Decagon House, and I would like to say this on record: Decagon House is bad. Decagon House is a bad book. Everybody
Ooh,
who
hot
thinks a
takes.
good book is good has never read any of his other books. And it's also, and then I will forgive them because they're not translated into English. But But the reason why I mentioned this is because I was joking about how Decagon House is just a bad, then there was none fanfic. Like, it's just basically like Agatha Christie fanfic. And then my friend Dubs, who's also currently reading Umineko, just turned to me and was like, isn't Umineko also just a when there were none fanfic? And I was like, yes, you are right. But it's also a fanfic of everything else. It's a fanfic of Divine Comedy. So, not to be and it was really funny to me because, my roommate, who also read all of Umineko, also loves mystery novels. And we start talking about this, and she owns we literally have, the Agatha Christie books and the Sherlock books on our shelves. And we were talking about this, and we were like, Umineko is basically, is a hodgepodge of everything, it's the works that inspired it. It's like everybody who, lost their fucking mind when they watch Knives Out. It's like that, but, for literature.
It's funny that you mentioned Umineko being a hodgepodge of other mystery literature, because one of the things that's kept me from following up on that idea while we're playing Umineko is that one of our regular commenters was mentioning that having read a specific mystery novel made figuring out one of the murders trivially easy.
Yes,
because
correct.
it was clearly inspired by that particular book.
Yes,
and I'm like, okay.
Yes. I personally tell you not to read anything yet. I think if you haven't done the reading beforehand, don't start it now. You should read all of the stories after you finish. I know exactly what the murder they're referencing to, and I totally agree. I think that's Ryu Kishi's small nod to people who got it. It's you get it, you don't. It'll be good. It'll be good when you get there.
Right. That's part of the reason where we're like, okay, so I'm probably not gonna, as much as this is making me want to, I'm not going to scratch that itch until later.
Yes, that's a good way to see it.
Yes, but I've got to say, don't go, even after you finish Umineko, don't go reading Orthodox mysteries thinking it's going to be as fun as Umineko, because Umineko really spoils you in the fun department.
Right?
That's very true.
Regular mysteries are boring. They are boring.
Wow,
that's not
they do
true.
not have
Regular
funny magic
mysteries are
battles.
good, but they don't have a hot lady constantly arguing to you about how you're stupid and you suck and want to step on you. It doesn't have that.
Funny you use that phrasing specifically.
The problem with Agatha Christie is there's no shoulder war towers in it.
Yeah.
I've got to say, Agatha Christie's version of Umineko is not as interesting.
Oh God.
Oh man.
Yeah.
There's got to be an edit of Umineko no Nakakoro ni, but it's on this faded, tattered 99-cent mass market paperback.
I wish.
Oh, that's damn, what a great idea for a thing that I may end up trying.
Do let me
Yeah.
know.
I think it's kind of crazy to think about Umineko that way because I don't know if SK and Vivian you have noticed, but there's a lot of links that we share to each other on the ADPR server. Most of the times they're spoiler tagged, but a lot of them are about how Umineko is actually a commentary on this blah blah blah, or commentary on this era of kind of detective novels, and people write weird ass fucking essays about them, which are great. I love them. And so the brain rot never stops. So
shout out to the Umineko channel on the APR Discord, by the way.
Yes.
You all are great, and you all don't spoil us, so thank you.
Oh yeah, that's okay. That leads into my next question. In the last 5 months of not reading Umineko, or I guess however long, half a year that you haven't been reading, have you been spoiled any more than you have already been?
I think we had the existence of one new character spoiled to us, but again, that doesn't really tell us much.
Yeah.
Because, okay, there's a new magical character. All right, well, we've already been told about, how magical characters are related to characters actually on the island. Why wouldn't it make
We've
sense
also
for
come
other
to-
characters to have magical variants? That's sure, okay.
We've also come to...
Wait, then I'm interesting. Could you describe the character you know of and what character you think they correspond to?
Oh, I've got no idea. I've got...
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't mean to...
I thought you had a whole theory on your mind already.
Oh, no. It's just stuff in passing. Vivian, what were you going to say?
We've just come to expect by now that we're going to get at least one new witch per chapter. So the existence of more of them doesn't really
Does not
tell
scare
us
you.
a ton.
Okay.
That is incredibly funny.
Witch.
Yeah, isn't it so exciting to get more witches? It's great. I love them.
Witches are real and my friend.
Witches are real and my friend. It's like the meme where it's like, give me 10 of these blonde bitches. Like I just think about that. That's what I think about whenever I think about Umineko and witches. I have a really good friend who's reading, and he was like, like, we have already gotten pretty far in the story. There's no way they're gonna introduce more characters, and then like it's just like, and he was right before he got to EP4, and I was like, bitch, you don't even understand, man. There's so many new characters in EP4.
Oh my.
Yeah. How do you feel about your relationship with Yui Kishi now? Like, how are you friends?
Sorry.
Are you enemies?
Well,
Do
I
you
mean,
hate him?
we keep our relationship strictly professional. I don't want to put out any innuendo here, or I just want to clear the air. Say there's nothing between us.
I see.
I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about Ryukishi 07 as an author right now.
Ryukishi is T-posing to establish dominance while I'm huddled in the corner.
Yui Kishi is the floating Slenderman that's chasing you down in the hallway.
I guess the more and more of this I read, the more and more it feels unfair that, like, no piece of literature I've ever read has captivated my attention and my and as much as this, and it feels weird. It feels weird that it's not more popular than it is.
And it's high praise that,
like, as an unambiguous literary achievement, like, it's just weird that this huge like iconoclast of literature
exactly.
exists.
This should be taught in schools. Like, that's
Just
what I think.
in this corner over here, just being quietly, like, head and shoulders above almost anything else I've ever read, and being like, well, yeah, that's fine. Just doing my thing.
Well, I say that's because of two main things. First of all, the fucking astronomical length of this bitch. Like, even if someone wants to get into Umineko, you tell them it's gonna, like, waste half a year of their time, even if they read it constantly.
Yeah, but, like, War and Peace is really long, and that piece of shit, that piece of work has been printed over and over again.
The way you went back on it mid-sentence.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
But also, I believe it's because it's really hard to advertise Umineko. Like, how do you sell Umineko to someone?
Or, yeah, I feel like Umineko might be slightly more accessible if it was, like, a book, but, like, then it just loses all of the fun parts about Umineko. Like, the voice acting, the beautiful music, that's just, like, the incredible music, and Ryukishi's amazing, hammy, original sprites, like, that are so beautiful and is close to my heart.
It's just... I don't know. If we can get people to read Atlas Shrugged, I feel like we can maybe get people to read Umineko. Atlas Shrugged is like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
750,000 words long?
Yeah, why is Atlas Shrugged read in American classrooms and not Umineko? What is that? That shows
I don't think
me
it's
an
taught in
agenda.
classrooms, but it doesn't stop high school assholes from reading it. Pointing at myself.
I'm pretty sure my friend had to read... is Atlas Shrugged the one about the building?
No, that's
No.
Fountainhead.
Fountainhead.
Forgive me. I had a Rand phase during high school. Rush lied to me.
Oh.
Rush
It's
lied to me
okay.
about how cool Ayn Rand is.
Yeah, my favorite Iran quote is from BioShock, just kidding. But no, my friend was actually telling me, like, when she was in high school, she had to read Fountainhead because of her teacher, and like, her teacher was really into it. They didn't read it because, for ironic reasons. They read it for really serious ones.
Wow, that sucks. that's most of 1,000,000 words that you can't ever get back.
Yeah. I also think it's incredible to me. Like, some days I feel bad about, I don't know, about life, and I wanted something to cheer me up. And one thing I like doing is I like going to on the Steam page and reading people's review about Umineko, and all of them are just literally like, when people tell you this is the best media and best work that I've ever read in their life, you think we're joking, but I am not. And then it's just like, and this piece of work was so monumentously important to me, and or like, I don't understand how Ryukishi wrote this. Could you imagine that Ryukishi was pumping these bitches out every half a year, like each EP?
No.
Like,
No,
was
that's
out
not okay.
half
You
a year.
cannot write 100,000 words in half a year. That is not
And
okay.
they're good words too. I could write 100,000 words if they sucked, but that's not what happened.
It's just, it's no, you no. No.
And I was like, not only that, like, Ryukishi was, like, actively writing them. It wasn't like he just wrote all of this and then, like, basically, like, posted, like, you know, like, a bit by bit. Like, he scrapped most of his EP3 because, you know, because the reception he was getting from fans. And he was like, my fans are such dummies. I guess I will have to write, like, Eva
and
as
then
a
spends all
murderer.
of episode 3 calling them a dumbass.
Yeah, basically. You know.
I mean, to be fair,
And,
we needed it, so.
No, it's okay. I mean, it is really fascinating, and like Ryukishi incorporated lots of fan theories that people wrote on BBS boards during that time into his writing. Like in EP4, there
Yeah.
was even mentioning.
Someone pointed
it's
that
crazy.
out. Yeah, was that you that pointed that out to us during EP4?
Yeah, EP4. There's in the conversation where
With the professor.
AJ has with the
Professor.
guy
The
who-
Plata and the Enora,
Yeah,
right?
La Plata. Yeah, those are two BBS board theories that I dug up and find out what I found out what they actually meant, and it was really cool.
Like EP5 onwards, like what are some things you keep your eye out for?
Oh, okay. So kind of like, what is our toolbox? What are the
Yeah, exactly.
weapons
What's in
we
your
have to
toolbox
move
now?
forward here? That's a great question.
I have an answer
actually.
off the top of my head.
Okay.
Okay.
My answer is I largely have 3 characters that I am watching like a hawk, and those are Shannon,
Ooh.
Cannon, and Kyrie. Because on rewatch, I feel like we've found out so much more about those 3 characters that makes me suspicious of them and wanting to know more about what's going on that I would not have caught if we didn't
Interesting.
rewatch. So now that we have rewatched and I've kind of recalibrated my expectations, I know who I'm going to be looking at under a microscope while we reread. While we read going forward in 5 and onward.
Yeah, I like those 3 in particular.
Okay, before we finish answering this question, I wanted to actually ask this beforehand. It's, why Kyrie? I feel like I actually wanted to ask this question earlier, and I mean, you have mentioned her name in the
Right,
KDA,
it's kind of like a
and you have
soft-
mentioned her like again and again. Like, why is Kyrie the one person that, like, out of all of the adults that's very suspicious to you?
So it's kind of a 2-front thing, right? The first front being the KDA had some way of knowing that Angie wasn't going to be on the island before the events because they sent money out to her. And supposedly no one on the island knew before they got to the airport, and Hideyoshi and Eva are like, "Oh, where's Angie? She's not here? Okay." So they must at least be in contact with someone in Rudolph's family. But the reason why it's Kyrie specifically, Vivian, you saw this mostly.
I don't know which specific thing you're about to reference.
Oh, I wasn't going to reference anything in particular, just more that Kyrie spends a lot of episode 1 being like very pointedly trying to get Battler to think in a certain way, like in a way that feels that feels kind of like, oh, this is just the tone of the book on your first go through, and on reread feels like, oh, that's very, very pointed of
Okay.
her.
I think we get
And-
more than that as well. Because there's just so many little things where Kyrie is adjacent to the mysterious goings-on in a way that other people aren't. Like in episode 1, Rudolph, realizing he might die, starts talking about it to Battler and clams up as soon as Kyrie shows up. Or episode 2, where Kyrie is the one who Kyrie is the only one other than Rosa and Maria from the family who sees this new Beatrice and reports on her arrival to everyone else and kind of sets off that chain of events. Kyrie keeps kind of leading the family conflicts, even though she's an outsider when the siblings are squabbling over the inheritance. In chapter 4, she's the only one, not the only one, but she's the main one on the telephone with Battler, relating all these magical occurrences and telling him to just believe them. It's just a little much. It's a little much for one character to have that suspicion carry across chapters, because there's lots of characters that are sus in one particular chapter or another, but I feel like Kyrie, it just kind of carries over, and I'm not yet sure why.
I see. So you, Kyrie is your kind of suspect that is like she's not out in the open, but there's a lot of little things that at like by themselves are kind of like seem trivial, but if you put them all together, it's weird that's happening so many times.
Yeah. Oh,
Exactly. It's oh, go for
and
it.
the whole thing about Battler's parentage. That too.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about Balor's parentage?
Because it really seems like she might know. Vivian and I have disagreed on whether or not Kyrie is aware that Battler is.
Before we say she might know, we should advance that our theory is that she's Battler's mom, because I don't think we did say that yet.
Oh yeah, yeah, that is our theory, is that she is Battler's mom.
Because it's not Asumu.
It's not Asumu, and there's the whole thing where like they're in the hospital at the same time. I think they got cradle switched. Like that seems to be the operating theory here. But
Okay.
whether or not Kyrie was in on it is is where we differ here, because Vivian seems to think Kyrie knew about this.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Why do you
convinced.
think she knew about it?
It's also one of those things where like it's not clear what that gets us just yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I wanted to ask Vivian, why do you think she was in on it?
So, a couple reasons, one of which is just the logistics of somebody.
Ah, yes, I love logistics.
Oh my god,
somebody-
logistics. That's our tagline.
Part one of it being just the logistics of someone in a modern society having a kid and somebody else having a stillbirth and having it all switched being not a thing that's so easy to do in the modern day. Maybe if the story was set 100 years ago or something, but for that to happen in a modern day hospital, in a modern day society, throws me a little more, makes me a little more suspicious. But the second part being that we hear about Kyrie's jealousy in, I think it's chapter 3, right?
Yes, when she fights
when she's doing her magical battle. And we hear about
very cool
how much she wanted to take Rudolph as her own, and how that didn't happen, and he ended up with Asumu. And to me, it seems like, with a motivation like that, I could believe that Kyrie really would have a kid and allow that kid to be swapped and passed off as the real kid, just to get a closer hold on Rudolph and to increase her chances in the future of being able to take Asumu's place.
I would like to point out that there's one other fringe interpretation of what to make of the circumstance of Battler's birth. The fringe version being that indeed both Battlers were allowed to live, and one was just left in isolation for a while, and then that's the one that was left in isolation. It comes back 6 years later after no one could recognize them as the other one. But I don't.
So there's two battlers.
That's the other major interpretation of that we tossed around. I don't know that we have any reason to believe that yet, other than Rosa being like, "What if you're not Battler?"
Do you want to know something funny about that line?
Sure.
That line shows up in EP2, and that line haunts me. There's a lot of like throwaway lines at Umineko that haunts me forever, and that's one of those.
Right? Because why would she? It feels like, why does she know that? Is she alluding to the fact that Battler isn't Asamu's son? And if so, why does she know that of all people? Or is she just letting the stress of the situation get to her? I don't know.
Yeah, it's that line plus the other line, which is Rudolph being like, "I think I'm gonna die tonight," like those two lines. And I think like there's like I could think of a handful of them, but those are lines that I finish Umineko and I'm just still thinking about it. Like it keeps me up at night.
It's good to know that we won't get any closure on those even after finishing.
Maybe you will. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things that like some people get more closures on and some people don't. I mean, there is a reason why all of our Des and I are still doing 2-hour episodes every single time we record, and we always have something to say. But yeah. Okay. So we talked about this last time. In the end of our episode. I don't know, Des, do you think we should wrap up, or do you want to talk about more things?
I don't know. I think I only have one last thing I wanted to say.
Okay, so let's, before we get there, I guess we will talk about this then. So I know we talked a lot about, like, what's your speculation of the answer arc, you know? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, we asked you this question the last time you were on, and you both gave, like, varying different answers, especially with Vin, your knowledge of Higurashi existing, so, and also have read it before. Do you have any more like specific thoughts you have that you're like, ooh, like now I have changed what I think, or like you mostly agree with like what you are going to be looking forward to?
I think we're both pretty convinced now that at some point in the answer arcs, Battler's going to learn to do magic. I don't remember if we were already convinced of that
Why
last
is that?
time.
That was my theory last time.
You were pretty convinced. Why do you think that's gonna happen?
Because it seems to be one of the major themes of the game, right? That in order to understand what's going on, you have to understand a person and their motivations. And up to this point, Battler has been arguing without using magic at all. But he also hasn't been trying to understand it. And I feel like if he actually wants to make any progress here, he has to actually learn what magic is, why it is used, and then that will lead him to a deeper understanding of what is actually going on.
We also start getting all this stuff in the tips starting in episode 2, where it's talking about how Battler inherited Kinzo's blood. He's got powerful magic resistance, and he could become a sorcerer to rival Kinzo or some shit like that. And it's like every other character that it says this about is folks like Maria, who do magic, or Shannon. And so it's like, okay, at this point it's basically inevitable that Battler will too. But like Kinzo, he's got that magic resistance stat really boosted, so he's going to have to overcome that at some point.
I don't think that means that he's going to... I think he's going to achieve something probably like what Angie has, where she understands magic enough to use it and see what it gets people.
Yeah, I think that's why...
But isn't necessarily going to let that inform his solution.
I think that's why he's got to overcome his magic resistance.
Drink like a poison or something.
Yeah.
Poison gives you -2.
Does it give you -2 every EP, or does it give you like -2 every Twilight?
It's just -2. It doesn't come with anything more than that on it. You don't know if it's like a permanent debuff or a small. It's just -2.
I see Ryukishi JRPG metaphors during EP4 really rubbed off
God, I
on you.
love the magic math battles so much.
If the Chesters don't come back with like a howitzer or something, I'm gonna be sad.
Des and I just did the episode about the magic battle where, you know, you see crows punch goats, and it's just so
it's
ridiculous.
Like, dude, chill.
Yeah, see, I used to be a boxer.
That was that one.
Oh God, it's so entertaining. So yeah, Des, what would you want to go before we ask the last few questions?
Well, I just wanted to bring up one thing you said during your theorizing episode. You said it's hard not to feel disencouraged with the sheer scope of the mystery in regards to like how many things you've got to take into account, how many things you got to just remember to actually build a theory, and then you forget this one detail that actually doesn't fit into the theory, and then you just spent all this time theorizing and it's impossible. And I was listening to that and I was just thinking, but you don't need to reach an all-encompassing theory. Like, just the fact that you did not stop thinking and you even went to the length of actually rereading, that's already a good achievement. Like, that shows you have built this relationship with the story to where you trust it to deliver. So you build yourself to the point where you're able to enjoy the story even more. Like, just not like how do I want to say this? Not stopping thinking is kind of like as important as actually reaching an all-encompassing theory.
That's
so those are
encouraging.
my words
Yeah.
of encouragement for you.
It is encouraging.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna say, I totally agree with what Des is trying to say. Is like, I think oftentimes what actually burns people while reading Umineko is getting too hung up on a theory, like like getting too married to an idea, and then I think like. I don't know if you have heard a lot about like the perception of Umineko or like how people liked it. Some people
No, nothing.
Okay, good, because I'm not gonna tell you. but but my point is that what I'm trying to say is like oftentimes you could imagine that if people get really married to an idea and they have built a complete theory around it, it becomes really difficult even when you are shown like what's actually going on, because you're just like, this doesn't line up with my 20-page theory. And and I think it's like trying to be as flexible and being able to like, but also still like basically being true to the text is very good, which I also think I'm glad that you are going through and rereading like Umineko, trying to like parse out parts, because it's great, and Umineko is the gift that keeps on giving, as I have said before. It's incredible. Like it's really like, to think that Umineko is written by a very, very small team of people, which is mostly comprised of like Ryukishi and his like 3 best friends and his brothers, is insane to me.
It's boggling. And I will say, like, even if a lot or even most of our theories turn out to be wrong, I still feel like you're saying, like it's less that, how do I put this? It's clear that like the game just really is constantly beating us over the head to keep thinking about it. Don't stop thinking about it, right? Don't just accept what is put in front of you. And knowing how long it took us in the game to get that message, like I didn't get that message fully and clearly until episode 3 or so.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
it's also not your fault. Like, the game does take into account that people are gonna get into the story not expecting it to be what it is, because when you start the story, obviously you don't know what awaits you. So
Right. And like
it's not that
nothing
bad.
else works like this, right?
Yeah, so that's it. Like, it's not bad to only get what the story is trying to do in like EP3 or even after that, because the story is trying to make you understand that it is what it is. Like, the fuck, I didn't want to do the meme, but the story is trying to tell you some things, and some people get it earlier, some people get it later. So that's why the story keeps telling you that you just need to don't stop thinking.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that, because I actually was reading about somebody mentioned this on Twitter, and people were like, why do everybody who is like basically super into Umineko think it's the best piece of media and couldn't shut up fuck about it, and basically spends the next 20 years of their life pondering about how great Umineko is? And the thing is that like what the person in the Twitter wrote is like, they said, Umineko is a self-selecting literature, like as in, you have to be crazy to a certain point to decide to read something that's longer than War and Peace, and then you have to be crazy enough to keep going, even if it's like with this gargantuan length, the extremely incredible, like incredibly confusing like things that are happening, and also just like having the Beatrice or Ryukichi constantly bonk you on the head and telling you you're a big dummy, like you're a big saucy baga, that you don't know what you're doing and you're a big idiot. So it really, like, even if you weren't like a very, I don't know, like mystery minded person, it is actually pretty fascinating to me. Like, lots of people go into Umineko not being like very privy to mysteries in general. You get trained by Ryukishi. Like, Ryukishi is training you over and over again, like throughout EPs, like making the story harder, making the story easier, and explaining to you like your tools. And basically, like, the novel itself is an instruction manual and the machine that you're operating on.
Yeah, one
Absolutely.
of the biggest, most obvious examples of that is the first half of EP4, where you're just taking a crash course on magic, essentially.
I was so thankful. Like, as soon as that, as soon as we got to that point, and I'm like, oh,
That's what we're doing today.
that's what's going on. It's we didn't talk too much about what our specific solutions for some of the bits of part 1 and part 2 are.
We also left out one of our
Sure.
major theories about one of the characters.
Oh yeah, yes, please bring it up.
Which one in
sorry.
particular are we talking
Canon.
about here? Oh, right, canon
We've
theory.
got a couple canon theories.
We've got a couple canon
Okay,
theories.
yes, I am ready. This is going to be called the canon section. We're going to put it in there. So, yes, please tell me. I would love to.
Okay, so building off of what our theory for what was going on in Rokonjima was, I can't believe we're using the term baby mill, but that's where we got to.
Rokonjima baby mill.
I think one of well, we both have we each have our own canon theory that they kind of overlap with each other, kind of a different a little bit, but they're both different mysteries about the person named Canon.
Okay.
I think the biggest one is that Canon, the person that was originally named Canon, is probably dead and has been for a while.
Oh, yes. The servant formerly known as Canon.
Yeah. Yeah, like there was at one time probably a child born named Canon who is now dead. And they have been, I think they have been for at least years at this point. I think they probably died very young, but it's unclear. The thing that brings us into that is the fact that in flashbacks, even from only a few years ago, we get scenes of Shannon clearly summoning Canon.
I think
Which
What scenes do you mean exactly?
there are a lot of them are concentrated at the beginning of chapter 2.
Yes, EP2.
Yeah, or EP2, yeah. Where we get some flashbacks to like the parts where Shannon is talking about her infatuation with George, or you know, I won't go into that at the moment, but there's a lot of points where it is very clear that she is summoning Canon. Like Canon just appears out of nowhere without any sound and leaves as soon as someone else enters the area.
But why would she summon a whole person?
So that's a great question. Our current operating theory is that the original Canon was probably someone that she was close to, either like a brother figure or something like that.
See.
And that the current version of Shannon seems to be, and that Shannon, at least in those flashbacks, is kind of projecting this version of Canon as a. It feels almost like a coping thing. Yeah,
I see. Cope.
Yeah, where if it feels like this is her friend, like this is someone that was close to her that died a while ago, and she is can't really deal with that, so she keeps. And it doesn't seem like from how she's treated in like the house and stuff as a servant that it's going too well for her. So it seems like she's summoning that version of canon as kind of a just a way to deal with that, to have friendly face around. But that's different from canon in the present day.
Okay.
And Vivian, feel free to jump in here if I'm
canon
getting any of this wrong here, because
I would jump in to say that our original motivation, I don't think was that, right? Our original motivation was about how canon never seems to leave a body when he dies, and how a bunch of the red truths about canon are pretty weird. And given that we saw that with Kinzo, and it was resolved by Kinzo having been dead already, and that still being true and leaving all the red truths true, even though he was never alive on the island, we started looking through to see if that, or not never alive on the island, never alive on this Rokenjima, the game board.
1986 part of the island, yes.
Well, you see, canon doesn't leave a body because gamers don't die, they respawn.
There you go. There it is.
Oh my god,
but yeah,
that is so great.
Like part of the was trying to reconcile like what do we get of all these red truths? Because we clearly get in red, canon is dead. Canon frequently dies first, but also doesn't leave a body, and also sometimes shows up after he's dead for some reason.
And we never get a red truth saying that canon was on the island in the first place in the first four episodes. We never got a red truth confirming he's there.
So what seems to be the case is that the person the game is referring to as canon in the modern day is not named canon and doesn't take that name on for themselves. It feels like because we do get a red truth about no one else can take canon's name. It's like,
and
okay,
no one would mistake him for canon and all those things.
So it feels like the person we have in the modern day is someone who is not named canon, but people colloquially are calling canon for some reason that's not entirely clear. My operating theory on that is that it is also related to Shannon's trauma, and Shannon might have latched onto this person and started projecting.
So is it like Shannon started calling them canon, and then everybody started calling
and
them
then everyone's calling him canon, even though
like a nickname?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we also do know that, like, you know, Shannon and Canon are not their real names. Like, I think this was mentioned at multiple points. Like, as like Shannon has her real name that she shared with George, and it's a very big thing that Jessica keeps asking about Canon's real name, and Canon's never got around to tell her, even despite the fact that happened like 3 EPs.
I've got an
over
offshoot
and over
theory
again.
about that, but that's
Okay.
a different. But I want to finish up with the stuff we agree on first.
Of course.
But yeah, that's the scope of it, is that the canon we see in the modern day is not someone who is actually named canon, and that's not the name they take for themselves. And all of the red truths, either most or all of the red truths we get about canon, are ones that are vacuous. So, like, they're described... Yeah, of course Canon died first in that group. Like, he's been dead for several years at this point. Of course Canon died... Canon might have died in this room. That was several years ago. That has very little bearing on what's happening right now. The way that gets interesting is when we get red truths like, in short, Canon was the 9th victim. Which... I have a bold-ass theory for.
Okay.
Okay.
Because we talked about the Beato Usho Romeo Raising Project, right? And how we think that came out of Kinzo's desire to get a vessel for Beatrice.
Yes.
Canon and Shannon allude a couple times, most notably in episode 4, to like these events having happened before. It seems like the ceremony to resurrect Beatrice has happened at least once before, involving.
Why do you say that?
Because Canon and Shannon keep alluding to these events having happened before, when clearly and we're meant to take it in like that. On first blush, we're meant to take it like, oh, they've got meta knowledge. They know things are looping, but that's not what it is. It feels like that the servants have lived through some version of this before, which would make sense given Kinzo's fucked up state of mind to try to abuse someone into believing they're Beatrice in the first place, right?
I see. You're referring to that scene in EP4, right, when they are in the jail.
Yeah, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we got to go through this again.
I see.
It would also make the red truth about Canon being the 9th victim make sense if the original Canon was the 9th victim of that original ceremony.
Oh, that's interesting. I feel like a lot of people assume that scene immediately, just being like, oh, they might be referring to the past EPs, but it's very fascinating that you went for a completely
Well, I mean,
different
that's what
route.
I thought at first. It was I definitely thought at first that they have meta knowledge somehow, but Vivian was the one that came up with the majority of this theory. she's had her eye on Canon now for a while.
Although I don't think
yeah.
another ceremony happened in the past. I think that red truth is very easily explainable without resorting to that.
How would you explain it
I
then?
think that it's easily explainable because the order of the killings already doesn't matter. Already doesn't match the epitaph, right? Because we get folks who are killed at a prior time and end up being a victim of a future night. And we get folks like Kinzo, who is killed on the fourth twilight or whatever, but he was really killed quite some time ago. So to me, it seems perfectly cromulent to suppose that someone could be the 9th victim of this ceremony and yet already have been dead quite some time ago, because the point isn't for the ceremony to literally be carried out and achieve a magical act and carry out a witch. Things are being done to make it seem as though this ceremony has occurred, and cutting some corners or switching up the order, doing things not quite by the book seems to be totally fine.
Interesting. I could sense that both of you have a very different interpretation of what the ceremony or the epitaph is serving. So, since we are here, I wanted to ask, so what do you think the epitaph and, like, I don't know, the magical killings or supposedly of what it says it is, like, what's your thoughts about that? Like, do you think it's, like, it seems that Vivian is describing it more as a means to an end, or ends to a mean?
What?
Actually, I do not know what ends to a means to the end even mean.
We actually kind of came around to the same
Okay,
answer on
so-
this one.
Yes, please.
I think. Because at the end of chapter 2, is it Lambda that takes the player aside?
Yep.
Is it Lambda, Vivian? Yeah,
And
yeah.
tells you that Beatrice confuses her means for her ends.
Just like
And-
mushrooms.
Yeah. And that makes it seem like the fascination with fulfilling this ceremony is not actually the point.
Yep.
So that's kind of what we had suspected, is that like the ceremony is not really, at least we agree the version of it that takes place on the game board is not actually about summoning Beatrice back. There's something else going. There's another reason to it, and part of it is going to find that out. But
The reason is not concluding. The epitaph is just having fun.
exactly, having fun isn't hard when you've got a murder
Aw.
card. Ooh, can I mention one more thing about
Of course,
canon
go
theory?
for.
Yes.
That has kind of been, because we've alluded to it at this point, that the fact that Kinzo, on our theory, was only would only have let a child live if they would have been a suitable vessel for Beatrice, right? And we've talked about how we think Canon is playing the role of Beatrice in chapter 2 and stuff like that. The underlying current to all that is that Canon is probably transmasculine.
Okay.
Because they're playing battle?
Not because they're playing Beato, but because they were probably probably assigned female at birth, and take on everyone seems to have no problems calling them he him. So like it seems very likely that the canon we see in the present day is probably is probably transmasculine.
I don't buy
in that
this
sense.
one at all, by the way.
Oh, why not?
I see. That's
Okay.
where we disagree. I think there's some great
Okay,
evidence for this, but you
so
disagree with me.
why do you disagree?
Because I think on our theory, necessarily, any of the servants that come out of the Fukuin house will probably be
Okay.
female. Because why Kinzo wouldn't have a need for a son, because that wouldn't work as a vessel for Beatrice
Okay,
in his
Vivian,
eyes.
then why is this something that you disagree?
I think we're deriving way too much from our speculations about our speculations about our speculations about the baby milk. I think we don't know enough details of that to draw a solid conclusion from that many chains of leaps of logic.
Okay.
And I don't think that the theory of canon being transmasculine actually explains anything for us. I don't think it's something that we...
It explains at least one thing.
I don't think it does. I don't think there is anything so far that has been explained by that that wasn't more easily explainable by something else we already thought.
Okay.
So to me,
See, here's where we
yeah, 'cause
disagree.
to me, it just seems like one of us has got a very specific theory based on originally voice cast choices for the anime.
That wasn't originally where I got it from. That was just solidified.
and has just kind of tried to find ways that it can work. with
Okay.
things.
Oh yeah. No, I am under no illusions. This is my pet theory, but I don't care.
Okay, so what did you want to add on to that?
There's one very specific scene in episode 2, right, where Cannon is in the servant room after being wounded, and they're trying to take care of him, and they're like, oh, we need to dress the wound, get a towel or something, and it's like, but Cannon's standing up and like, don't worry about that, you know. The scene is obviously magical. I don't think we can take that at face value, but the part specifically where they describe Cannon's bandages coming off, despite the fact that his wound wasn't dressed yet, when his chest was when his upper chest was exposed, I'm like, yeah, I could take that.
Interesting. Okay. I would like to ask you, because I think we have mentioned this part in our last conversation, is that a long time ago, before either of you got into Umineko, you have heard about some, let's say, fucky-wucky gender things about Umineko. Do you think that might have influenced your thoughts about thinking as canon as transmask? Because, I mean, okay, not to throw all visual novels under the bus, it does, like, most of the times in visual novels, it doesn't seem like they have a good grasp about writing good trans people. So, like, I feel like...
Oh, no, not at all.
Exactly. So, I mean, why would you be more, I guess, like, a lot of people would have never, like, I don't know, made the leap, usually, like, that, like, a character is trans in general in visual novels. And usually if it is, it's always done in a very weird way. So, like, why would you have made the leap of faith to make this argument then?
I fully admit 90% of it is wishful thinking.
So you just want...
I want to believe in the
yes,
queer.
You're
So
just
I will
willing
make
this
it.
into existence right now.
I will bring it into existence by nothing but sheer force of will. I mean, we also the thing is though, like, it was something I had brought up before we started rewatching episode 1, and there keep being moments where it's like, there's just there keep being moments where it's like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense under
Like,
this.
that if this
Like,
was trans, like...
the like the part where Cannon feels insecure about his strength and stature, or it also it's just a bunch of tiny little things, and I fully admit this is just me going wishful thinking mode. Don't judge me. But,
Okay, so wait, there's a little bit of a discrepancy here between theories, because you put sus on Kirie because of a lot of little separate events, but then here you have a lot of separate events too, but you're disregarding them as just wishful thinking. So what's the reason behind believing Kiria says, but disregarding canon trends.
Oh, I think the stuff we have on Kyrie is a lot more solid than what we actually do have on canon.
Interesting.
Yeah. The thing is that we like, I can't discount the fact that my own brain is like, oh, come on, you can see the queer here if you want to. You can do
then
it.
I
Come
would
on.
like to ask, what about you, Vivian? Like, what makes you basically are more, I guess, against this like train of thoughts?
For me, it's just that I haven't at any point in the story had anything that has made me think that of canon.
I see.
So to me, it doesn't seem like there's a bunch of little things for me to disregard.
I see. So you have never read them that way, basically.
Yeah, I have not.
So there's a couple of other things about kind of the shape of events that we think we have a finger on at this point. I think the biggest one is that on both this game board and the previous one, it seems like the KDA is reaching out to one of the surviving adults to try to bring them in on the conspiracy for some reason. Like on the first game board, that's when Natsuhi gets invited up to talk with Kinzo, right? And on the second game board, Rosa gets invited up. We don't see what she sees, but it happens in a very similar manner. And Rosa takes it much more poorly than Natsuhi did.
Interesting.
It seems.
Why would you think Natsuhi is the one who gets in on it? Like, is it because she survives to the end?
I think it's because they more easily play to what Natsuhi seems to want. Right? Like they're like, oh yeah, you have the golden wing tattooed on your heart. And it's like, well, all right. That all she wanted was to be part of to be considered a major part of the family. So sure. Okay.
Interesting.
So it's just like...
Whereas Rosa definitely doesn't seem like she comes back from talking with Kinzo very happy about the state of affairs.
I think that with Rosa in particular, it's interesting because we have some things to make it seem as though she talked to the conspirators and was brought in on things. But then later, those same conspirators are the ones she kicks out the room because she has the keys and the gun and she thinks they're all wolves. And I think Rosa's path is puzzling and interesting. It's almost as though something happened, like they tried to bring her in and it didn't work, or something like that, or some sort of squabble arose, because if they did fill her in on things, it would very, very conveniently explain that weird change in personality and her ideas and what she wants to do that happens right after she goes up to talk to Kinzo and the golden butterfly lands on her back and so on. But at the same time, she doesn't seem to just quietly go along with things. And that I don't have a good explanation for. But I'm interested to see how this lines up with events in chapters 3 and 4, where I don't have a good memory of if anyone fills this role. I guess Kraus talks to Kinzo in 3, is it? So I guess I should.
I think it's 4.
So I guess I should be looking at him then.
Because in chapter 3 is going to be the hard one for us, because all of our conspirators, except for maybe Kyrie, die on the first Twilight.
Yeah.
So, I think I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think our general feeling was that the first Twilight appears to be about how the KDA want events to go. It's about as close to on script as we've
Which
seen.
one?
The first Twilight.
Yeah, which
in
first
chapter
Twilight?
2. In chapter 2.
Okay, in chapter 2. Because there's a lot of first Twilights that go pretty differently, right?
Sorry. Yeah, I was back to talking about chapter 2 specifically. I don't know if that's right, but it feels like that's about the most in control they've been, and it feels like there aren't too many surprises going into the next day, at least on part of the KDA. It feels like maybe that's about as close to how they wanted things to go as they have gotten so far.
Plus, that's the one that required so much more prior planning. Like, you have to have all the Halloween decorations and candy and shit and put all this effort in. And
which They did.
Yeah. So that, I feel like, is harder to explain if people hadn't already been thinking about doing that before the game board, as opposed to the others, where it's like, oh, you mutilated some people in a shed. Sure, you can do that any day of the week. But
Exactly.
Halloween party.
But to make a pretty banquet happen and have people's candy explode out of people's stomach, that's a Tuesday. Like that's a special Tuesday event.
That was actually what got us there, was that, like, okay, and enough people see this scene that we can be pretty sure it happens at least very close to how it is described. And that takes a lot of planning. Like, okay, yeah, I can buy the fact that maybe you have your Halloween decorations stashed in a box somewhere. But it's it's very early October?
Yes, it's early
And
October.
so, like, who were you can't convince me that they had all this candy and stuff on hand for all the trick-and-treaters that'll come to Rokushima.
Yeah, exactly. Who's fucking coming to... I think there's even a moment in the... Like, there's even a moment right at the... after EP2 murder, like, as in when Kumasawa, like, so, like, you know, like, all the people show up to go look at the thing that's happening at the chapel, but then, like, Kumasawa didn't wake up in time, and then when they when they go back in, Kumasawa wazes out, and it's like, oh, is everybody hungry? Want some candy?
Want some candy? Right?
It's like, very funny.
Oh, honey. Oh, honey.
Yeah, I just think that scene is so funny to me. Yeah, so I mean, so we talked about EP1 and 2 since those are the two that you guys have just finished reading. But what do you think is happening in 3? You know, like, all of as you mentioned before, all the KDA people are all now dead. 6 people in a room, like, in loops.
Yeah.
And, like, what's that about? Like,
It's
so, like,
hard. I don't want to commit too heavily to anything before we've actually sat down and rewatched it. But, like, if I just, like, a very bold... If I just had to, like, guess at the shape of it, Vivian and I had talked briefly about the possibility of Hideyoshi and Ava having their own agenda back in episode 1. When we were writing episode 1, we were wondering, like, oh, maybe it feels like these two have their own agenda coming here on the island. And in episode 3, it's pretty clear who the culprit is. It's
Yes,
Ava
correct.
for most of it.
Yeah,
Most, if
I
not
mean,
all of it.
Eva says very sussy things in EP1 with Valor. Like, you know, she's like, if
Yeah.
I was the murderer.
Right? And it's because and we were talking about how maybe, like, how they came to exclude themselves from that first evening murder fest, and how they might have had their own agenda and plan for what they were doing on the island, for what they wanted to accomplish here. And in chapter 3, it seems more like things go the way of this potential Ava faction. Again, I don't want to, like, hard commit to that reading of it before we've done a rewatch of it, but that seems to be what the shape of that is.
Another
Interesting.
thing I'd like to bring up is, for our episode 1 theory to work, we already have to suppose there's a body double floating around that can pass for Shannon. So if we still believe that, that's still an option too. And if we suspect that maybe the servants actually look similar enough for a body double to pass as one or the other, could also instead free up canon depending on what's going on. So we should watch for that. I'm not convinced that that's the case, but I could believe that one or the other of those two is still running around in the background, unencumbered by red text.
Right, and we get that body double theory.
Oh, so what you're trying to say is, like, not only there's one crazy murderer running around, there's 2 crazy murderers running around.
There could be. And just in case it's not clear, the reason that we believe so readily that there could be a body double that passes that well as Shannon, although, again, we don't see her, she's off to the side, but something convincing enough was that, again, if all of the On servants indeed look alike, as they are the ones that were selected as potential vessels for Beatrice, it's not that big of a stretch to assume that if they had a dead servant, they would look very similar to Shannon in canon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Although then again, where'd the body come from? But that's a different story.
What the body doing?
We don't need to tell where the body came from, Beato. We just have to suppose it's there.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, Jessica sings the song about how much she likes breasts.
The Toho song.
Okay. She sings
Specifically.
about something else in the other version,
Does she?
Yes.
I thought it was.
Yeah,
Isn't that what Peton?
Yeah, Peton
That's
Peton
Yuji.
Tsuru Peton is the original song from the
Toho.
Toho version.
Yeah.
And then because of the fact that that's kind of like, I think it was like because Yukishi was like being funny and like referencing, they actually changed the song that he sings in the PS3 version. I can go look up right now what it is.
Oh, okay.
It's like about sweets, I think.
Anyway, Jessica canonically has played Toho. I don't know how this happens in 1980 something, but she has.
And yeah, also Maria canonically watched Cardcaptor Sakura.
Right? Exactly. How did she do it? I don't
And
know.
Higurashi.
Yeah, and in Higurashi, he canonically has an Xbox in 19...
No. I meant Maria canonically has watched Higurashi too.
in anime,
in
not
the anime,
in the...
she has watched Higurashi. It's
Yeah.
No, in the VN too. I'm pretty sure.
No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. No, she does't. I know.
What?
There's somebody
No.
else. No. That's... We can find me visual evidence and I will believe you, but I don't think it's in the VN.
The Mandela Higurashi effect.
That's the Mandela Higurashi effect.
big theory that we have about the nature of Beatrice. So the Beatrice we see for a lot of episode 2 is what we've been calling programmer Beatrice because she's got programmer socks.
Oh yes.
Now this is important because it's still Beatrice, but it's very clearly a different outfit delineating her from the Beatrice wearing the usual dress, right? And in fact, they make a point of later on being like before Beatrice goes down to the ball, of like changing her outfit, right? That's a very important.
Yeah, of course.
So the problem is we also see the regular silk dress Beato vibing during chapter 2 at times.
Yes.
So our original estimation of this is that programmer Beato is canon Beato, canon playing Beato, and that traditional Beato is someone else taking on that role for moments, probably Shannon. But it's clear that it's clear from that there are at least 2 people in this chapter playing Beatrice at the same time.
I see. They couldn't agree on who would play the lead role.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's more important than just a wardrobe change.
Yeah. So since you did bring up the wardrobe change, I don't know if this is so carved into your mind as much as it's carved into mine. This very specific scene in the end of EP4 where Battler and Beatrice is talking on the balcony, and then you see one Beatrice talking to another Beatrice, one with programmer socks and the other one with the big poofy dress.
Yep.
So thoughts, comments, and concerns?
So we've actually talked about this specific scene already, and again, I don't want to commit too hard to it before we've rewatched it, but I think that's perfectly explicable if there are that's Shannon and Cannon.
Just 2 yes, it's Beatrice.
Just 2 Beatos hanging out.
It's the clown to clown communication, but it's 2 Beatrice.
2 Beatos, maybe more.
By episode 8, we're going to have
2
5
Beatos sitting in a
Beatos
balcony.
just all squabbling over which one's the real one.
I mean, there is 5
Snack soup of
Beatos.
BN.
There's already 5 Beatrices in the first place. There is Virgilia Beatrice. There is Angel Beatrice. There's the 2 Beatrice we already have, and there's Eva Beatrice. That makes 5.
Wow, that
And
is
Maria.
5.
We have more Beatrices than chapters.
That is true.
Wow. Fits so many Beatos in this game.
Oh my god, there are so damn, there's so many Beatrice and Beatrice memes. They're great. I'm so excited. It's great because there's already a lot of Umineko memes, but there's also just so many you cannot share yet. So one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
One day.
is there anything else that is on the top of your mind that you want to put out before we end the episode?
Yeah, I think there's one last general topic that we've been discussing back and forth, and that is the nature of doors.
Boom! before we talk about
Yeah, doors are so moody. I hate interacting with
yeah,
them.
collisions.
Doors don't interact.
How did you not worry about collisions with doors? How do I clip through
So
doors?
I think what happened is that Beato took a stool, then stood in the corner of the room, and then clipped into the room.
Yeah, she changed her camera angles. And she fiddled with her controls.
Out of bounds.
There she go. We had this discussion because we were talking back and forth about some of the red text about doors, and it became clear that some of it is tied up in different interpretations of what it means to do something from the inside or from the outside of a door. And I was talking like I like until we've known otherwise, like a lot of the locked rooms seem to presume that you can only lock the door when you're on the inside or lock it from the outside with a key, right? But that isn't how we expect doors to work. And we were talking back and forth like, wait, a lot of these can be solved if it's just you lock the door, you leave the room, and then you close the door behind you.
Yeah, okay, Des and I argued a lot about doors. We also had our door episode where we talked about door physics and how door works. So
Wait, I'm not sure what your question is about the doors. So because if they leave and lock the door behind them, then the key's not gonna be inside the room, which is what usually happens.
Well, that's the thing, is that like we were talking about whether or not we can expect doors on Rokenjima to work the same way we'd expect doors in our house to work.
yes,
So, like for example,
yes.
like if I'm leaving for the day, I can walk out my front door, right, close the door, take my key and lock it. However, if I'm a dumbass, I can also leave the key inside my apartment, walk and lock the door using the little turn knob thing, right? Close the door behind me as I walk out. The door is now locked. I'm outside. My key is inside, and I'm like, oh shit! Now I have to call my landlord.
This happens to either of us every couple months.
Well, no, because what usually happens in Umineko doors is that you can lock them from the inside, but from the outside you need a key, so you would never be able to lock
But
a
when
key
it-
from
Okay,
lock a
so-
door
But
from
when
the
it says
outside
you can
without
lock
a
it from
key.
the inside, it doesn't specify, like, is that like a deadbolt then, where like you can only lock it from the inside after the door is fully closed in the frame? Or can I set the lock like I do with my front
Yeah,
door?
so this is
Right?
this
So I like turn the little knob on my on my door handle. I walk out, I close the door behind me, and now it's locked.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about door physics. Let's think about this. So, Des and I also had this humongous argument because we've been talking about, because as I now learn from Des that European doors work different than American doors.
Whoa, okay, hold on. This is interesting, actually.
So yes, Des, explain to me how your doors work.
Yes, FYI, I do not actually remember this argument, but
We had it in EP2 is first Twilight is wrong. This is how we're gonna solve it. It's from
okay,
that one.
okay. So I actually don't know how your doors work, or I don't remember now. But my doors, you need a key to lock it, be it from the inside or from the outside.
Really?
No, wait. Those are inside doors. If we're talking about outside doors, like they close automatically if you close the door. Like if you close the door from the outside, you need a key to open it up again.
Okay.
But it's not locked. It's just closed, and you cannot open it from the outside.
So, which I think is exactly how Kingswell's door work. Like Kingswell door is an auto lock, which is anytime you fucking close the door, it just fucking locks.
Oh, that's what it means by an auto lock. Holy shit! Only after 3 years did I get it. I thought it was like this whole complex mechanism that actually fucking locked the door. It's just
No.
that.
It just means when you close.
Ah, okay.
I think
Awesome.
yes.
Doors.
Okay, so what I'm trying to describe about doors is there's different kind of doors. So we can have doors that basically you can have to turn the little knobby thing, and it's not like, some doors, which is the one I guess like SK you were trying to describe, is like those kind of doors that has like a slope where it slides in and then it clicks, and then the idea is
Yes.
that like you can lock it just by turning the knobby thing inside without a key, and then you close it, and then
Right.
like
And
that would be
that's
really
not,
convenient.
That's not a deadbolt. That's a,
Yes.
I don't know what the name of it is, but
Yes, but I think Rokenjima doors are like the ones that if you close it with turning a lock, like if you try to lock it from the inside, then it just hits the frame and then
okay,
bounces
so
back.
they would lock like a deadbolt would. Okay. And that's the kind
Yes.
of thing where it's just like this,
So-
that might just me getting hung up on inconsequential
Door
details
physics.
of door physics.
I mean, I think it's really important because Umineko does spend in like basically so much time on explaining doors,
Right?
which is also what drives me
Why can you see the
crazy.
keyholes in a door that don't have big keyholes? Why, Kyrie? Tell me why.
Tell me why.
Thank you. Yeah, that's also another thing. Part of me is like, could you put your eyes through the holes? Like not put your eyes, but like, could you see through them? Till this day, I so don't know
Apparently
if
not.
the doors on Okajima are
But according to the red text, or according to the way people describe them, it doesn't work that way on Rokenjima. But then why do people talk about keyholes? Because Kyrie is lying is the obvious answer to that. But I also have a crack theory where people are removing the doorknobs of the doors.
Oh yeah, I actually remember. Yeah, I really remember listening.
The fucking mental gymnastics.
Get the power drill out.
I mean, if I saw a hole in a door at that point from a distance and I was just out of my mind, I'd be like, oh, that's a keyhole? I guess? Sure.
You can fit a whole fist
You could
through
fit
it. That's
so
not
many murders
that's not
through
a
that hole,
keyhole.
is what I'm saying.
You can you can put a whole arm through it at that point. I guess depends on how skinny your arm is, but that's one of the reasons why Umineko not only introduce you the door, they also introduce you the chain. So which makes it even more annoying.
Chains.
So the chains and the doors. And some doors don't open up. You have master keys for all the doors, but then you also have regular keys for each of the rooms, and sometimes keys are in pockets or keys are gone.
Sometimes you have doors that just don't lock,
Exactly.
that don't have a lock on. We know about exactly 2 so far that just don't have locks on them.
Which were the 2 were you thinking about?
The 2 that lead into the courtyard. The game specifically describes the 2 doors leading into the courtyard as just not having the capacity to lock.
Lol, very fun. Yeah.
Right? It also trivializes the locked room chain in Chapter 3, but...
Oh yes, that's what I was trying to say. It's the Chapter 3 EP1 murder, not Chapter 2.
Yeah.
It's the one we argued about, fucking... Yeah, I have so much thoughts about that chain room murder that we made a whole 2...
Wait. I'm thinking. I'm not, sorry. I was just mentally catching up with the discourse that had just happened. So... Wait, only one door doesn't have that, right? The other
No.
boiler room door can lock.
They said specifically both of the doors that lead to the courtyard do not lock.
Oh, both of the doors that lead to the courtyard? Which one's the other door?
We don't know which the other door comes from yet, actually.
Well, that's kind of
We
weird.
know it doesn't lock. I thought it might have been the kitchen, but it doesn't seem like that's where the door leads.
Huh. Where did that happen? I'll have to go investigate. Do you remember when that was said?
Happened in chapter 1, right after Cannon's killing. Battler runs out into the courtyard from the boiler room door and is whirling around trying to see if the killer is in there, and notices the 2 doors, and that's when it gets into talking about the courtyard doors.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, Des, that hurts my brain so much. Doesn't that hurt your brain? Think about our episode that we did.
I don't know. I just feel like we might be missing something.
We
But
might be missing a lot
we'll
of
keep
things.
going.
Yeah,
Wait, did we bring up a detail? Vivian, we brought up a detail that made our hosts rethink something. High five.
Whoa!
Isn't Umineko beautiful?
there's constantly things like that. I remember when we did that episode with Lorenzo, and Lorenzo was like, "Isn't there 2 doors in the boiler room?" And both Des and I's brain exploded.
No, there are 2 doors in the boiler room, but one of them can be locked. But the question is, how many doors are there in the fucking courtyard?
But but
Right?
they also didn't say if all the doors in the boiler room were all locked. They just said doors were locked. What does that mean? Does that mean both doors of the boiler room was locked?
Well, one of the doors can't be locked, so it's just there.
Pain.
Right?
Pain.
Great. I love it
We'll
here.
see.
I will see. We'll see. We'll get back to you on that. Which I mean by we'll get back to you when you finish the whole thing. We can talk about this again. Oh God. Yeah. I hate doors. Jesus Christ. Yeah. No. I mean, Don't you love that when the more you learn about Red Truth, the more malleable it seems it gets?
Yeah. The red truth tells you a lot less than you think it does. It's vital, and that was kind of a change in our understanding of the red truth as we've gone on. I thought at first it was meant to just kind of guide battler away from like the dumb things into what he was supposed to be thinking, which is magic, right? But it's really like if there's a lot of red truth around something, it's probably because Beato doesn't want you to look into it.
And that's where you should look harder.
It's like there's no smoke without fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, why are you spending so much red ink over this one thing if there wasn't actually something to it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. So now, do we? Is there anything else we want to bring up, or do we think this will be the end?
I think that's all we got for general stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, Des, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I've got to say, I'm completely mind-fucked by the door discourse, but we'll get back to you.
I am so mad. I feel like every day I wake up and something else about that specific murder like drives me crazy.
Doors
course. I think this will be the end of our episode. Thank you so much for 80% relatable the relatables to be on this podcast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've got to say thank you for trusting us not to spoil you on anything, because it is a very high responsibility not to lead you on to anything.
Yeah, and also thank you so much for basically deciding to do this within a week. We did not plan this very well. Would you like to plug everything and tell everybody about your future Umineko projects and when is that going to start happening again?
Sure. So you can find we're 80% relatable. You can find us on YouTube at http://catgirl.training, a real hyperlink that will take you to our YouTube page.
It is.
Our series Two Queers Play. It's our Let's Play series updates Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I stream there on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Two Queers Play Umineko Answer Arcs will be starting later this month.
Ooh.
Because I'm assuming this is going to come out in March.
Yeah.
I think we're this might change, and if it does, we'll put an addendum in the bottom or something. But we're looking at the 27th of March, Sunday. We're going to do a kickoff stream of this game, and it'll be a great time.
Wow,
since we did a kickoff stream for the first Umineko where we sat down for like 8 hours and read a visual novel for a while.
I am incredibly excited. I am going to be living in that stream chat box and typing furiously.
We're also going to have our episode 2 rewatch breakdown video where we'll go down point by point of our stuff about episode 2. That'll be coming out in the coming weeks, so look forward to that.
Yeah.
I'm out of stuff, Vivian.
Yeah. I think that's about it.
Yeah. Go watch their channel. Amazing stuff. Don't
forget to smash the like.
Smash that like button. Every
Yes.
like means we get closer to a Umineko anime. Just kidding. People are going to actively start downloading because of that.
True, I will. Okay.
Why would you threaten the people with a good time?
I think we're all burnt and scared. That's why.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so this will be it. Thank you so much for listening.
Wait, how about stay golden, witches?
Stay golden, witches. Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, great slogans. I wish I was there to write them. Okay, so thank you so much for listening, and bye.
See ya.